In this video, we will take a look at the benefits of freezer paper as a stabilization solution. Freezer paper comes in a variety of different forms. This particular one comes in A4 sheets. I'm sure you can buy it in US shops in US letter size. And of course, it does come on big rolls if you're going to use it a lot. Sometimes you will find it in the supermarket, but more often than not, you will find it in quilting and sewing shops. So what is freezer paper? Freezer paper is basically a thin sheet of paper which has a waxy coating on one side of it. And through the application of heat with our iron, it will temporarily melt that, fuse it to the fabric, and then we can cut the design out. And then, because this is such a light application of adhesive, we can actually remove the fabric and none of this wax will transfer onto the actual fabric. So we can then use it as if it was just fabric. So what I've done is I've got myself a piece of cotton, quilting cotton, and this will work with a variety of different materials, even felt, that tricky to cut felt. So it's definitely well worth a look, and we are going to fuse it to the back of the fabric. So I'll put the waxy side face down onto the back of the fabric. I've set my iron to a low temperature, so number 1, and I've cut that a bit too big, so I will just chop a bit off. There we go, that's better. And I'm going to run the iron over. Now I start generally on one side and then work my way across. That helps to avoid air bubbles. The same thing applies with this as you will find with other backings, as in you'll need to make sure that your fabric is fibre free from the edges or fray free, and then you will need to make sure that your fabric is pressed. And that's now fused, but just to be doubly sure, I will give it another quick run over on the other side. And we don't want any air bubbles, so I'm trying not to push too hard on the iron because I don't want the fabric to sort of go into valleys or mountains. So we're just gently gliding the iron over the surface, almost just moving it with our fingers like this. It's the heat that we want to melt the adhesive. We don't necessarily want the pressure. There we go, and we'll let that cool down, and then that will be ready to run through our scan and cut machine and cut out a shape. So I am here at the machine with my freezer paper prepped piece of fabric, and you can see how it does curl a little bit. That's not a problem, because what we're going to do is position this with the fabric side facing down towards the sticky mat. Then we've got the sticky of the mat and the sticky of the freezer paper holding things in place while we cut this fabric. So I'll just position that in place, making sure there's no air bubbles, and using my brayer just to smooth it down and stick it to that mat. We'll then load it into the cutting machine, pushing up against this edge, in under both rollers, and then press load. Now I've already got a circle loaded on my screen. I refer to my instructions as I do every time, making sure that I've got the right mat, making sure that my settings are correct. So this would be thin cotton fabric, except for quilt piece, setting of blade depth of 4 and pressure of 4. My blade depth is here, so I would take the blade out and set it to 4 if it's on anything else. And my pressure is here in the settings menu on page 2, on the second line down. You would set that to number 4 and click OK. Now, I normally would do a preview to show where this is on screen. However, because it's such a big area, I know that if I just move that roughly there, it's going to catch in that fabric area. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut that. with the settings that we've got in the machine. When the machine has finished cutting, click OK, unload your mat, and then we'll take a look at the result. I'll use my spatula to start teasing up one of the corners, and then I will peel back to reveal my cut shape. Again, using the spatula to start bringing up that circle, I'm taking it off, and there we go, a beautifully cut circle of fabric. And as we mentioned, freezer paper is temporary, so we can now peel that off, and we've now got our piece of fabric ready to use with no residue, no adhesive, and nothing else to get in the way. So there we go, another stabilization solution featuring freezer paper.